Now, I haven't told this story in a while, but it was by far the most gruesome of anything, really, any event that happened with my wife. And if this is the first time seeing me again, I was married for 25 years, and unfortunately, my wife succumbed to alcohol use disorder about 5.5 years ago. And I tell this story to create awareness of what's going on with your loved one, and if it's relatable, it's important to get people help long before it gets to this stage. But this was probably back in 2018. It ended up being about 2.5 years before she actually passed away. And my son and I, we went up to look at colleges. We live in California. We went to Santa Barbara. We went to San Luis Obispo. We went to Santa Cruz, and then we ended up going up to San Francisco. And it was actually right around 4th of July, and we ended up watching the fireworks really right in the bay, San Francisco Bay. And it was a beautiful period. But we had left on a Sunday, and the reason why I was able to leave my wife, she couldn't come with us because at the time she was under house arrest, I believe, for her 3rd and 4th DUIs, and she was under house arrest for a period, I think, about 90 days. And unfortunately, I didn't realize at the time, but she was able to leave the house for, I think you had to be back by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they gave you a space so you could leave the house. If you had a job or some kind of function, you could go outside. Unfortunately, that was the window for Amanda to get alcohol. Now, we had left on a Sunday, and I called her up on the Monday, and I could tell she was inebriated. She was trying to act normal, but at the time I could tell she was far from it. And she was home alone. But being under house arrest, I mean, technically you're still in jail, and the police can come, and if you do mess up, they can come to your house and do a spot check. So, I mean, she was essentially not alone. She had an ankle bracelet, and people were monitoring her. I did feel a degree of safety that she would be able to get through the week on her own. How wrong I was to find out by the end of the week. So that Monday I talked to her, and while I was talking to her, I could tell she had dropped a big glass. I assumed it was like a wine bottle. And while I was talking to her, and I go, what's going on? Are you drinking? Oh, no, I just dropped a glass. I went, okay. Well, we're halfway up the coast, and we're looking at a college. We're going to look at this one tomorrow, and I'll call you back tomorrow. Okay, end of the conversation. So Tuesday I called, didn't answer the phone. Did not answer the phone. I was like, okay, well, I'll give her one day. Wednesday, didn't answer the phone. Left numerous messages. Never heard back from her. Thursday, didn't answer the phone. By this time, we'd gone all the way up the coast. We'd looked at a number of colleges, and the 4th of July was in the middle of the week that year. And, we were in the Bay Area, and I was starting to get very concerned. I mean, we're 500, 600 miles away from home, and I haven't heard from her. I was hoping the police were going to do a spot check. At least they had to monitor her. At least she was in the house, and I didn't think she could get into that much trouble. Again, how wrong I was. And I can remember on the way back, we stopped by San Simeon, and that's where Hearst Castle is. And it's a big tour. You can go up into the castle, and there's the Casa Grande, and there's different rooms you can go to, different tours. And we were right in the middle of a tour. I'll never forget it, listening to the tour guy. And we were in like the main room of the Casa Grande of William Randolph's castle up in San Simeon. And it was the police. And the police were going, we're checking in with you because you're the phone call to contact the other person. I was just like, oh God, don't tell me what happened. And they go, we haven't heard from Amanda in 5 days. At that point, it'd probably been more like a week for them. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean they haven't heard? She's home, isn't she? Well, have you talked to her? I go, well, unfortunately, right now, I'm several hundred miles away. I haven't talked to her since Monday. They go, okay, well, we're going to have to, figure out something because she hasn't checked in 3 days. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked at my son after the tour, and I said, we were going to go to, I think, down to Santa Barbara and spend another little bit of time in LA. I go, look, we got to get home. So by now it was Friday. It was Friday afternoon. Traffic was pretty heavy going through LA. We drove through LA. We finally got home. And I mean, the two of us were like pretty freaked out. If the police had called me, they hadn't been able to get a hold of her. I hadn't been able to get a hold of her. Why they didn't send a couple of police officers over to the house to check on her. I don't know. Maybe it was busy that week, but they didn't. Unfortunately, that was left up to me. So we pulled up into the driveway, opened the garage door. I drove the car in. I go, Griffin, stay in the car. If there's anything in here you don't want to see, you don't need to see it. So I walked in, and I was freaking. I was expecting her not to be alive. But I walked in the back door, and it goes down a hallway, and you turn to the right, and it was into the family room. We have the kitchen to the left and the family room, and I could see her. She was sitting on the couch. And I walked right up to her just to see if she was all right, and she kind of looked at me like this, and she was completely hammered. She was not aware that I was even in the room. There were at least, I would say, 10 bottles of wine empty on the coffee table in front of her. There was probably a case of empty beers that had been crushed and just thrown around the room. It looked like the remnants of a college frat party fraternity, fraternity. It just looked like a college party, just a rager. But she was the rage all by herself. And I just looked at it, and there was broken glass. The broken glass that she had dropped the Monday before was shattered all over the kitchen. She had walked in it, walked across the glass. She had cut her feet all up. There was blood across the floor. She had vomited all over the front of herself. There was urine and feces all over the couch. She hadn't had the ability to get up. She was so drunk, she hadn't had the ability to get up. The only reason why I go through this in these kind of details, because you've got to tell the truth. This is what families go through. This is what alcohol use disorder does to a human being, certainly in the later stages. 4 DUIs, under house arrest, alone for 5 days, drank herself into oblivion. I'll definitely have to make a part 2 because this story is much more involved, but I'll make a part 2 tomorrow. Again, you can read about this story because it's one of the main objectives in the story is to understand this disease. Amanda, Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. You can purchase it in the link tree on this page. There's also an international link. You can purchase this anywhere in the world. It's available again on Amazon. Ebook is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks for listening. So this will actually be part 2 of when my son and I went up to look at colleges up in Northern California. We came home after 5 days, and my wife was covered in her own bodily fluids after nearly drinking herself to oblivion. And again, if this is the first time seeing me, I was married for 25 years, and my wife unfortunately passed away from alcohol use disorder a little over 5 years ago. And this is one of the most intense incidences that my son and I ever went through, and obviously my wife. But we came home after 5 days, and again, my wife was under house arrest. She had a GPS tracker because she had her 3rd and 4th DUI about a month apart, and she had spent 65 days in jail, and now she was under house arrest for the next, I think, 3 to 6 months, something like that. It was a while ago, I can't quite remember, but she was under house arrest, so I felt comfortable enough in going to look at colleges with my son. So when we got home, I was able to clean her up. We got her up into the bedroom. And unfortunately, I didn't stay in that bedroom because I just couldn't be around it that night. That was a Friday night. And the following Saturday, she didn't come out. And I remember I had some things I had to do, came home later in the day, and I asked my son if he had seen his mother, and she said no. And I was getting kind of concerned. The door was locked, and we were getting very concerned. I pounded on the door, and I asked her if she's okay, and I just heard kind of a mumble, so I just assumed she was sleeping. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, as things deteriorated from there. So somewhere, I believe it was around 7 o'clock, the Saturday of the following day, and we really hadn't seen Amanda. We hadn't seen my wife come outside, and I talked through the door a couple times and heard some mumbling. She said, "Yes, I'm fine." And I think she was just going through detox to some extent. I thought she was, and I just thought, she was embarrassed and she just wanted to hide and kind of heal herself from the trauma that she had put herself through. And obviously, yes, that wasn't the case. Around 7 o'clock, I could hear a lot of moaning coming from the bedroom, and I realized this is crazy. The door was locked. I ended up having to kick in the bedroom door Just smashed the hell out of it to get in the door, and opened in the door, and she was on the bed, frothing at the mouth. She was waving her hands all around. Her eyes were like in the back of her head. It looked like a scene from Exorcist. The reason why I tell this, because this is stuff that families go through. I know this is an extreme case, but I tell it really to create awareness of what the road that an alcoholic will go down. She had unfortunately taken handfuls of her prescription medications. She had all kinds of different things for her knees, her thyroid, and she had taken handfuls of them in whatever her delirium was at the time. I immediately called 911. It was pretty terrifying because she was in such horrible shape. Ambulance came, they ran upstairs immediately. They wanted to know, had she tried to commit suicide? I said, absolutely. To me, it looks like that's exactly what she was doing. It was also obviously a cry for help. And I can remember talking to the paramedics at the time. Do you think she's going to have brain damage from this? This looks like a pretty severe case. And they say, we don't know. It looks like, it's a possibility. Does she drink? I said, absolutely. That's the problem. She's been drinking all week. She's in jail because she's under house arrest right now. So when you take her out, I'm going to have to contact the police to let her know that she's now at the hospital. It was just getting so out of control. I couldn't even believe that this was going on. So she went to the hospital, and I'll continue from. So she was in the ER for a while, and then they actually admitted her into the hospital very quickly because they realized it was a very serious case. They said, let us take it from here. My son and I went there the next day, and she had detoxed. She was up in bed. Apparently she was okay. It was a very harrowing experience. The hospital put her under a 10-day hold for a psych evaluation. The problem that my son and I had, because at this point I contacted her family, her parents, her sister, brother-in-law, and I said, hey, look, everybody's got to come here. She tried to commit suicide. So the entire family showed up, and it was probably 3 or 4 days later after this incident. And I think the problem my son and I had, and it became very, very apparent, that Amanda was kind of thriving on the attention, and that she had a private nurse and a doctor, and everybody was kind of catering to her. And I remember, I think the takeaway that I'm getting from this is that my son was just kind of stood in the corner, and he was 18 at this point, and he just kind of looked at me and goes, I'm really sick of this. I'm sick of visiting my mother in hospitals. Look at her. She thinks everything is fine, no big deal, and we're all going to go about our lives. This just happened, and let's just continue. And Griffin was, it's the first time he really expressed how sick and tired of dealing with his mother and watching his mother and visiting his mother in hospitals. And it was the first time I really realized it was beginning to affect him. And it became a turning point. There were several turning points. This was a huge turning point because I realized it was time not only to protect myself, but also our son. Again, real quick, I have a complete coaching program. It's really designed to help both the alcoholic and the family. Obviously, I've had unbelievable amounts of experience in education, helping. I've helped thousands of people, both online and in person. Click on the link above, schedule a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. We're going to do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. The call is free, the course is not. I'm looking for people who want to change their life and the life of their family forever. The costs are less than the amount that you're spending on alcohol in a month. I guarantee you that. And really, to end this story with a caveat, the police actually came to the hospital, and I had met the particular police that were on the case a couple times by this point, and they came and they cut off her GPS tracking code. They said, you know what, she's got bigger problems than having to be under house arrest. And so she had to go back to court, and they actually had a mandatory, she had to go to a detox rehab for another 30 days and then attend 6 months of court-ordered inpatient care, which she continued to do over the next 6 and 7 months. But I could do 3, 4, 5, 6 different parts in this, but this particular incident is where it went down. And I'm glad the court system at that time was very helpful, because she was court ordered to go to a detox rehab, and then really intense counseling, 8 hours a day outpatient for the next 6 months. Again, you can find this story and so many more in the memoir of Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It's the story of her 25-year struggle with this disease and how it affected her family and obviously all of us. Link is on the link tree. You can get it right on my website. It's also available in the international link. This is available anywhere in the world. It's also available on Amazon. The ebook is also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening. Now, this is really the third part of the story that I've been telling the last couple of days, and for all intents and purposes, this is really kind of the saddest part of all, with my wife who passed away 5 years ago from alcohol use disorder. This happened about 2.5 years before she passed away, and I realized that there really wasn't any recourse, that this was probably the end of the road for her, and I don't think she was going to get any better. So she was court ordered to go to outpatient counseling, and this is after she had court order to go to, I believe at the time, it was like her 5th or 6th rehabilitation facility. So she went to a detox rehabilitation facility for 30 days, court ordered, and then this is after the police came in and took off her GPS monitor because she was under house arrest. So instead of continuing with her house arrest because she had her 3rd and 4th DUIs, they decided that she needed mandatory counseling and outpatient care. And I'll continue the story of how that went. And really, just to backtrack for a minute, the reason why the police took her GPS monitor off is because she had tried to commit suicide by downing handfuls of prescription medications, which were told in the last video. So she was actually on a 10-day psych hold, and the police came in to the hospital and removed her GPS tracking device. I mean, it was just like one thing after another, and she really wasn't getting this. I mean, she kind of enjoyed the attention in the hospital, unfortunately, and it was kind of disgusting for myself, and my son was really upset about it. He was getting tired of visiting his mother in the hospital, and this is when I really started becoming aware of just the incredible impact that this was having, not just on myself, but on our son as well. And I realized different action had to take place. So she went to the rehab for 30 days, and then she got out and she had to go right into a court-ordered outpatient facility. It was called Hill Recovery here in our town, Temecula. And it was very good. She had to go there for 8 hours a day. And it was funny, when she came home, she kind of resented it. The first few weeks, I would drive her and pick her up. She wasn't allowed to drive anywhere. Drive her, pick her up, drive her, pick her up. And then on Thursday nights, they had a family night, and I would go there and really spend the night with her, and that usually went from like 6 to 9 at night. It was a good 3 hours, so it was a pretty much of a pretty dedicated period of time, especially after having worked all day. So I spent 3 hours there, and her general attitude after listening to people get up on stage and tell their story was, well, gosh, I'm not as bad as these people. I mean, I haven't done that and this and that, and I would just look at her and going, Amanda, you got 4 DUIs. You're here under court order. You've done what? At this point, 5 rehabilitation facilities. You've lost your license. You have warrants. And I mean, the court is telling you that you have to be in here 8 hours a day. What part of that is not registering with you that you're way worse off than anybody that I've listened to? And she'd be like, oh. And she'd get defensive and just like, why are you not seeing this? Why are you not getting this? And I realized it was the disorder talking even then, but just having a relationship with somebody who was just that full of defense. It's just a hard pill to swallow, very hard pill. And I think one of the most poignant things that they did at Hill Recovery, at the beginning of every meeting, they had a board in the back of the room, and it was a picture of every person who had succumbed to the disease, who died from alcohol use disorder, who had attended Hill Recovery. And I mean, the wall was full of people. I mean, there's like 100 people there. And I said, Amanda, please, I don't want to have to put your picture on this wall. I mean, that was a real foreshadowing, because about 6 months after she passed away, I ended up going to Hill Recovery in 2021 and gave him their picture. So her picture is now on that wall. And I just, it's a remembrance of what she said. Those people are much worse off than me. I'm not as bad as those people. If you have somebody in your life telling you that, they're in deep doo-doo. And real quick before I finish the story, I have a complete coaching program. I've gone over this before. Click on the link, set up a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. We're going to do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. The call is free. The course is not. I'm looking for people who are ready to change their life and the life of their family and set up and the really projections for the rest of their life, how to deal with this disease and how the family can help with them. It's a very intense, organized course, and it will set you on a path of sobriety forever. Click on the link. So she went to this rehab facility for 8 hours a day, and eventually the counselors were okayed it to go down to like 4 hours a day, because I think it was just a lot of just the same going over and over again. And she was getting kind of frustrated spending all day there, which I thought it was great because at least I knew where she was. But I think we were probably into the third or fourth month of her doing this, and I thought I was seeing success. But I mean, I did smell beer on her breath from time to time, but she would always deny it. I'm like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do, fight her? But there was this one time, because I always picked her up and took her, but there was this one time where it was open enrollment and I couldn't get there. So she had the keys. I don't remember the situation. This was, God, almost 7 years ago at this point, but she got the keys to her car, her BMW X5, and drove, and I was going to meet her there. And I met her there, and we did it was a Thursday, the family evening thing, and I drove home, and I said, follow me. I want you to follow me. And she went off in a different direction. I went, where is she going? So I drove home, and like 2 hours went by. And this is after 4 months, 3-4 months in a pretty intense outpatient program. And she pulled up in the driveway, and I could tell she was drunk. She parked the car sideways, was stumbling out of the car, and I just like, what are you doing? Well, she goes, well, I just needed to get a couple drinks. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I deserve to have something to drink. I've been doing really good. And I'm like, God, you're just not getting this. You're just not getting this. And I looked in the car, and she had probably had 10, 12 beers. I think she bought a 30-pack, and she had taken the rest of the beers, the empty ones. She had thrown them in the back of the car. I mean, it was just this kind of irrationality that I realized there's nothing that's going to get through to her. If losing your freedom, if being court ordered to spend 8 hours a day dealing with this problem and having counseling. I mean, she had counseling for at least an hour a day, one-on-one counseling. And she still had this general attitude. I realized that this disease had just taken over her, and I didn't really think there was anything anybody could do for her. And really why this is the saddest of all is because as a family member, you realize there comes a point where you can spend so much time trying to save them, and you realize that you have to save yourself as a family member. And that's the most important message you can take from this. And as difficult and as heartbreaking as it is, I wasn't surprised the road it went down the next couple of years. And I have many, many stories like this, as do families who go through this. But, again, her memoir is called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. You can click on the link in the link tree on this page. You can purchase it right off my website. There's also an international link. You can purchase this for anywhere in the world. It's also available on Amazon. The ebook is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening.